Hi, Dr. P here to talk about drafting rules and drafting rules and drafting rules, because it's not a case of write once and you're done, or write it once and then revise a few times and you're done. The process of making the rules is something that should continue as you make the game. Now, some people like to write rules before anyone plays the game. If that suits you, that's fine, but it's a big waste of time, because the game is going to change. It's going to change most likely a great deal by the time it's done. But if writing a full set of rules ahead of time helps you settle in your mind what you think you want, then take the time to do it. Now, for most people, you can play a game that you've designed, play for the first time, without a full set of rules. It can be played out of your head, or you can have rough notes. And if you have been designing games the proper way, you've been writing things down all along, so you'll have a fair number of notes. And of course, if anything happens that you haven't thought about yet, you can make it up on the spot. This is one of the reasons why designing with tabletop games can both teach you more and be quicker than designing with video games. With a video game, you've got to figure everything out so that it can be programmed before anybody can play it. But that's not true of a tabletop game, especially if you're the person who's going to play it to begin with. As I generally recommend, play it solo a few times before you have anybody else play, and you'll find lots of things that you can fix. The more extensive the notes you have, the less you need a full set of rules when you play the early games. Now, I've found that I write a full set of rules much earlier than I used to. So perhaps with experience that's come, or perhaps I've just written enough rules that even though I don't think I'm particularly outstanding at it, I can still do it fairly quickly and have a full set of rules to use. Now, rules must be tested, and that means you've got to have the rules while you're playing the game for quite a while. And that way you can revise the rules constantly as you revise the game. You want the rules to be up to date. If you wait until you're done to write the rules, how are you going to properly test them? If you have the rules in hand during playtests, you can also find out whether it's easy to find things in the rules. I find this happen quite often. Rather than trying to remember the particular rule, when somebody asks while they're playtesting, I'll look it up in the rules. Or if I don't happen to be there at that time, the players will look it up in the rules, and we find out whether it's easy to find. Because it doesn't particularly help if it's in the rules if it's hard to find. And if you do then, by this experience, discover that some things are hard to find, you can try to revise the rules to make them easier to find. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I say the same thing is true for most games other than very, very, very simple ones. I particularly like to set my prototypes aside, often for months, sometimes even more than a year, when they're at a fairly advanced state, and then go back to it. And at that point, me reading the rules is a lot like somebody who's never played the game reading the rules, because I don't try to remember the rules to the games. I have lots of games going, and I don't try to remember the rules. I want the rule set to have all the rules in it, rather than just coming out of my head. So, if you want to write the rules to begin with, you're going to spend more time than you need, but okay. But I strongly recommend against waiting until the game is done, quote unquote, because games are never done, to write the rules. Rules need to be tested along with the game.